Nostalgia. That longing, sentimental feeling of the past, where we had good memories in a place or period of time that we associate as the best parts of our life, or when the world was still good. Nostalgia can also be bad, when we only perceive the good parts of our past, but mentally try to stuff down the bad or negative parts of that past in order to justify our own opinion in a discussion of a particular subject. In this case, entertainment. I will not lie to you, even though I was disconnected from the greater social sphere that is life for most of my childhood, I still developed some nostalgia blindness of my own. It does share some parallels to the "you are not immune to propaganda" talking points. I'm Mr. J, and you are not immune to nostalgia blindness. First off, I should probably explain a few of the factors of nostalgia that I know in sparse detail, because it's much more than "this thing in my past was the best, and nothing can ever top it." Back then we were kids, goofy little children without a care in the world as to the greater machinations that went on in the background. A kid doesn't know the intricacies of politics, social expectations, conscientious choices, or the weight of everything yet. They're doing what they do after playing a game or watching a movie or cartoon, wandering around and engaging with the things that light up their dopamine receptors. The same can be said for high school and college. Whether it's socializing, working, studying, being a nuisance, or just chilling out, there's a ton of things that spark their interests. You might think, Mr. J, how can someone perceive their past and everything that happened to them to be better than the present? And that's what I'm going to tell you, right now. The next factor of nostalgia is the misplaced positive perception of events. Either we believed something in the past was better, be it a place, time period, object, event, etc., or we didn't know enough about the happenings of the world at a given time to form a reasonable opinion. I consider this factor a mixture of dopamine and ignorance. On their own, they're dangerous enough as it is, but when you put a natural high together with a person's lack of knowledge and/or information, that becomes a very dangerous combination. It's because the person builds a Pavlovian response to nostalgically looking back on their memories. The rush of dopamine, whenever they look back on their past, reinforces the perception of the memories they hold on to. It's one thing to look back on life with fond memories and regrets, and to learn from everything, good, bad, or indifferent, but when you don't take the good with the bad, it leads to our next factor, biases. It's no surprise that biases exist, and as there are a few definitions, the one we're focusing on is our prejudices towards favoring one thing over another. Whatever it may be, there are things we have a natural inclination to move towards if we're given the option to do so. It's human nature for us to have biases on the physical and intangible spectrum. We tend to make biases of people, places, items of interest, concepts, and a time long since past. How this plays into nostalgia is in part with ignorance. We usually, without knowing it, selectively look on the past to cherry pick what we remember and qualify as good or positive in our lives, often omitting information in favor of making our perception of events fit together. Or in layman's terms, we craft a narrative by taking what we want and constructing it without the full sequence of events. Though all of these stem from one other factor, and it's one I've been mentioning a few times now. Human memories, or specifically our memories, are a patchwork of learned information, acquired knowledge, and our perception of events that transpired. While the concept of what we can remember, learn, conceptualize, and imagine is great, so too is our ability to omit, misconstrue, ignore, and make up information. Combine ignorance, human bias, and our natural chemical euphoria, and it makes for a potent taste of nostalgia. It all molds together to make us believe that something in our past, or in a time long gone and unreachable to us, was better, easier, less stressful, more challenging, or in essence, anything that strikes your fancy, really. Our memories aren't these monolithic entities that remain untouched all our lives. It's like science. When new information comes out, it changes the way we view everything. Unfortunately, like everything in life, there are some people who reject this information because it conflicts with the old information so heavily. Alright, I know that's only a minor drop in the well that is nostalgia, but it should suffice. Look, I am not a psychologist or a mental professional. I'm a 20-something-year-old voicing my opinions on the internet. So as I go on to talking about nostalgia blindness, please remember this is built from my own experiences and understanding of the subject. Okay? Okay, let's go. I do feel that sharing my own perception of nostalgia should help everyone understand what I say next. Nostalgia blindness, from what I gather, is someone stubbornly refusing to look at the bigger picture, or the negatives of what they look back on in the past to view as good. It's gleefully wrapping oneself in ignorance to avoid coming into contact with the reality of the situation, taking their biases and shoving them on stage to make their point seem valid. The willingness to forego listening to reason and understanding another point of view to widen their perspective. That's what I call nostalgia blindness. And as I said at the beginning of the video, I did have nostalgia blindness for some pieces of entertainment. To share a few of them, there's Shrek 3, Nicktoons Unite, the first Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, and Sonic X. And you might ask, well, Mr. J, why did you have nostalgia blindness for these pieces of entertainment? And the best way I can answer that is, Kid Me was hooked by something from all of these. I had a very, let's say, avid love of Shrek when I was a kid because I was riding the high off of the first and second movies. And going into the third one, I kind of kept that high going. Nicktoons Unite struck a chord in me because you got to go on an adventure with the big four franchises of Nickelodeon at the time and play as either SpongeBob, Danny Phantom, Timmy Turner, and Jimmy Neutron, taking down the heroes' respective villains across all four of their worlds. I watched the English dub of the original Yu-Gi-Oh! On the CW network's Saturday morning cartoon block. I enjoyed the card game and was ecstatic about watching the show it was based on. And I'm pretty sure mine and one part of anyone's childhood involved in Yu-Gi-Oh! Could be summed up in these four words: it's time to duel! And okay, I'll be frank with you, my brother and I loved watching Sonic X when we were younger. And again, it was on the CW Saturday morning cartoon block that my brother and I would go bananas watching as Sonic would run across the screen while fighting Dr. Eggman. But if you must know how much my brother and I loved to watch Sonic X back then, we would recite the entire theme song from heart. That's how much we enjoyed it. And then something changed. I saw that Shrek 3 was just an okay movie that could have done a lot better with its story, character motivations, plot, writing, and so on. I realized Nicktoons Unite was rushed out the door to capitalize on the popularity of the characters much rather than to make a solid Nicktoons game. And I also know that the game is old, clunky, and has a laundry list of issues pertaining to the fact that it was part of the experimental and short-lived Nickelodeon cross-save system. I understood that in Yu-Gi-Oh! You needed more than the heart of the cards and friendship to win a duel, such as a good deck engine, a cohesive strategy, and an understanding of the archetype you're playing. That, and from watching and thinking on MangaKamens videos on the girls of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise, I agree that they are used as plot devices or given little agency of their own in the various iterations of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I came to an understanding that Sonic X was parts of Sonic Adventures 1 and 2 stitched together, while also being a deviation from the plot. And I won't disagree with anyone over their distaste of Chris Thorndike. You know, I have grown to dislike him too as the years have gone by, but that's another story for another time. But this begs the question, how did I face my nostalgia blindness? And the answer to that question is neither simple nor quick and easy. I asked myself questions. I asked my friends and family questions. I kept rewatching and replaying these pieces of media to understand what I was missing. I started doing my best to let go of my comfort and ignorance. And I took the time to realize I'm not always right. I then saw that these pieces of media weren't the best things in the world, and instead of shunning and demonizing them, I welcomed them into my heart, while also understanding they have their flaws and problems like any other piece of media. And parallel to real-world events, a lot of people will willingly keep their eyes shut or not want to talk about the flaws and negatives of media or entertainment, and solely focus on what they perceive to be good, what they perceive to be right, what they perceive is the best parts of the media, and wanting to go back to that past. wanting to go back to that world 10 or 20 or however many years back to live in a time that never really existed. A world that only exists in our perception of childhood that can never be achieved. Partially since we can't perpetually remain 12 years old, and also because going back to a time when we didn't have to worry about politics, social issues, and actual responsibilities is how a nation stagnates and decays. It does suck that life has all these things happening, but ignoring them and deluding yourself about a non-existent past won't help. And the best way I can help you deal with your nostalgia blindness is with an open mind and open heart. There's no problem with liking a movie, a game, a TV show, or any piece of media that strikes a chord with you. You're allowed to like media that isn't enriching to the mind or soul or has a lot of problems under the hood. It's when you blindly revere it and tell me to my face that this is the best thing ever and you're just a hater towards what I like, that I can't really pull you out of your nostalgia blindness. You're the one who has to reflect on and admit that the media you like has flaws. Because like I always say, and even if I haven't, I'll keep saying it, I cannot decide these things for you. You're the one who has to make the decision. And all I can really do is show you the good and bad, help broaden your perspective and worldview and tastes without outright picking and choosing them for you. And you might also ask, Mr. J, is there a way you can help me deal with all the bad stuff coming my way? Yes, for the most part, it's accepting the good and bad of life and entertainment, and knowing that hiding away or not facing the problem itself or not wanting to get involved is how nostalgia blindness cements itself into your world. It'd be a bold-faced lie if I told you, oh yeah, The Lion King 2 is the best movie ever made. I'm making some kid cuisines while we jam out to it, and then we can play a little bit of Ben 10, Protector of Earth, before hitting the mall. In part because malls are a dying activity thanks to greed and capitalism, but also because you just want to go back to a time where you were able to perceive everything as black and white without pushback. I can't pull you out, but I and many other people can help you deal with the problem in a healthier way than acting like a child that needs to be coddled. Nostalgia blindness can happen to anyone, and it can cover anything we look back on when reminiscing about the past. There's no way to overcome or surpass it. No easy tips to deprogram it out of your mind, and no telltale signs that someone you know or love is deeply rooted in nostalgia blindness. We're a species that houses a little over 8 billion humans on Earth. There's countless ways our nostalgia blindness takes root and grows, how it develops, who caused it, when it happened, where it originated, what drives it, and why it grew into the way it did. Mine is different from my family, my friends, my acquaintances, and yours. And when looking back at media, there always are and will be people who will scapegoat a current piece of media to justify their continued nostalgia blindness. There's no end in sight to nostalgia blindness, unfortunately. No permanent solution to deal with it. And more often than not, way too many people who are content with facing away from the present and living in the past. The things I can do for you are ignite your desire to ask questions, give you my point of view, and offer you another solution. I don't really have any witty remarks or wise words of wisdom to leave you with. As always, you can take what I said and learn from it, or tell me to pound sand and walk away. I'm Mr. J, and to those of you who are still subscribed and watching the channel, sorry for the delay in content. I have been dealing with a few personal things. Also, I've been having Insignios critiquing the beta content of my videos, so that way I can provide you guys with a lot better quality across the board and moving forward. That said, I'm playing Avatar Into the Inferno for November's video, so I hope that you guys have a day, and I'll catch you later.